Hi, everyone. This is Andrea Flack-Wetherald, and I'm doing another live Lunch and Breathe, which is designed to give the folks who follow my channels an opportunity to connect at the beginning of the week on Monday, take some deep breaths, and whatever it is that you're facing, hopefully get some inspiration and some motivation. Of course, as everything that I do, rooted in mindful improv to just kind of help you really connect and feel a lot better about whatever's going on in your life and your work headed into the week. So today, the topic that I picked is about silence. And so I've been talking for a long time in my work about the role that silence plays in confrontation, in improv, in mindfulness. It's a really incredible and powerful tool. And of course, at this time of history in our country, that word is coming up a lot. And it, in a way that is it's a fair critique of silence, that if that's the only tool that you're using, it's a very hurtful tool and a way to duck responsibility and avoid connecting, avoid, being in the arena. And that's not what we want to be about. So what I wanted to share a little bit about today is what silence can be, and how we can use it in order to really further our purposes. In confrontation, in life, silence is a powerful tool. So when I was in the thick of it as a foster parent, the therapists that we were working with to help with some of the significant needs that our children had were talking a lot about planned ignoring. And that phrase sounds horrifying on the surface. I remember feeling very turned off to any type of foster parent prep course that was about ignoring. That seems like a terrible thing to do. It seems like negligence. The word ignoring sounds like the word negligence. And as we came, further through the process, the different trainings, the different therapeutic tools that we were using with the children, we came to a new understanding of what that word means, of the way that planned ignoring is different. But I'll let you Google that, because this is about silence. And the reason that I bring up that story about when we were, really in the thick of it with foster care and that word, there was a lot that hinged on that word. We went to these therapists seeking help. We went to these therapists because it felt like our ship was sinking. And we felt desperate not to feel like hostages in our own home. We were very deeply in need of solutions to see a change happen. There was a very clear change that we needed. There wasn't any negotiating on what the change could look like. The change needed to look like freedom. The change needed to look like peace. The change needed to look like safety in our home, So there's a very clear idea of what we needed. And hearing someone say ignore felt like, I won't even repeat the words that were going through my mind through some of that. Because I'm like, that's not what we need to be doing, is ignoring. we need results. And it was hard for me to understand how ignoring could get us there. So hopefully you're seeing some of the parallels between where we're at in our country, in our society, maybe where you're at in your office on a separate issue. Just because our country is currently in a time of pandemic, protest, election, the other things that were happening in your life and in your office haven't gone away, right? The same marriages that were difficult are still difficult. The same bosses that were bullies are still bullies. The same situations that existed before are still in existence. So please feel free to interpret these words as they apply to your convictions as someone who is specifically spending a lot of time focusing and working in our country and some of the societal issues that we're dealing with right now, or as it applies to your own life, your own relationships. They are applicable to both. So when we're talking about silence, let's talk about how comedians use silence. So if we were in person, I would ask for a show of hands if who's ever experienced live comedy. Because if you have, then you have certainly had the experience where if it's improv, people are building a scene, they're offering their ideas back and forth, and then the stage goes silent. And the audience sort of leans forward in their seats and they're watching the people on stage. And the longer that silence goes, we call it a pregnant pause sometimes. The longer that silence goes, the more people are just leaned in. And it's the slightest little expression, the slightest breath, the shortest little sentence that gets offered next on stage, and it will get the hugest laugh. Why? It wasn't just because of that one thing. Had we skipped over the silence, I promise you, that joke, that punchline, whatever, would not have had that same payoff. It's the silence that pulls people into that moment, and they're like, oh my God, what's about to happen next? Oh my God, what's about to happen? And we're all like just in this moment together, this moment of anticipation together. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what that function is in our lives, because what I really talked about is connection. That's what that silence really was about, was connection, right? It pulled the audience together. It pulled the other improvisers together on the stage, and kind of got people wrapped around like, oh, whatever will happen next will be significant. Do you hear that? That's what silence did. It pulled people together and got them on the same page of whatever will happen next will be significant. And so that's what silence does on stage. So when we are in a confrontation, let's say, one thing that it's easy to do, if you were the one that knew this confrontation was coming, if you had been sort of percolating for a while with, look, I got some things to say, I'm not happy, I'm upset about whatever the case may be, whatever your situation is, so you knew this was coming, it is really easy for very good, kind, loving, well-intentioned people to enter into the confrontation itself armed with statistics and facts and figures and evidence. And I printed out the last handful of emails that you sent, and be armed with proof of why that you're right, armed with proof of why this person is wrong, why they need to change, armed with a bullet pointed plan and agenda of how things can get better, what needs to happen. It's really easy to do that. And then when that happens, what happens to our scene partner, so to speak? This other person feels defensive, right? They feel attacked. They feel maybe surprised. Maybe they didn't know, for whatever the situation is. Maybe they didn't realize what was going on. And so it's easy for there not to be a lot of silence. There's easy for it to feel like, now is my chance to speak up. Now is my chance to say everything that needs to be said, and to sort of dump. If you imagine each idea, each feeling, each thought, each statistic that you have as a brick to build maybe something beautiful that you could build. But if you imagine each of those individual contributions as a brick, and you imagine they're in this big old wheelbarrow, instead of working together with your scene partner, like we say, and building whatever it's going to be together. Hopefully you've heard me talk about that before. You build brick by brick and you build whatever it will be together. Instead of that, it's easy to sort of dump a wheelbarrow full of information on top of your scene partner and then not have done anything productive. So here's the question that I want to ask you. And this is what silence helps us do on an individual level. What is it that you really want? What is it that you really want? Because probably what you really want in your situation is similar to how I felt when our home was a war zone. A war zone. Foster care is not easy. And you feel like this personal attack because you're in your own home and there's nowhere safe to go. There's nowhere safe for you to just be like, I need to cry, I need to scream. I'm having big feelings about this choice that I've made, and I don't know where it's safe to go to process that, So if you feel that way in your office or whatever, it's important to find silence somewhere and ask yourself, what do I really want? Because probably it's real growth, long-term sustainable change, long-term sustainable difference, that's probably what you really want. So if what you want is that, then what we know is that developing a real human connection with your scene partner and creating a space that's safe enough for them to do that vulnerable work of admitting that they're wrong or asking for help or seeing a different point of view. Learning is vulnerable. And I say this as someone who has had lots of learning to do in my life as a foster parent, as someone who comes from a background, a worldview that was not especially broad, not especially open. And I've had a lot of learning to do about how I can make sure that my behavior and my beliefs match the love that's in my heart. That was a vulnerable process to do. You can't do that when someone's firing at you from all angles, right? And burying you under statistics and hypotheticals and hyperbole. That's not how it happens. So let's land the plane here. Silence is powerful because when you present someone with new information in a way that is humble and kind and honest and authentic, when you offer your perspective as a gift to your scene partner, and you offer it in that gentle way so that it's receivable, and then you are quiet, you are giving your scene partner the opportunity to connect with it, to really just listen and hear you. Some of it is logistical. It takes a second to process new information, to process something big that you've just heard. So that gives your scene partner time to do that. So that's why it's a really critical thing in confrontation. But on an individual level, we have got, now more than ever, we have got to make sure that we are creating space for silence with ourselves to connect with who we really are, first of all. Who we really are is bigger than the hat that you wear as an activist, than the hat that I wear as a Mennonite, than the hat that I wear as a foster mom, than the hat that I wear, whatever that one specific thing. You are more than that one thing. Who you really are is a bigger, deeper concept than that. And you will further every purpose that you care about. Everyone involved with the situation, you will further that, you will better that, you will contribute positively to that better when you are connected to that identity of who you really are, deeper than any one situation. So silence is important for that. You can also ask yourself questions like, what is the deepest truth here? Because don't kid yourself into thinking that just because you've spent a lot of time thinking about something that there's nothing left for you to learn there. Your scene partner is offering you helpful information. And so getting silent and giving yourself room to be like, what is the deepest truth here? What can I be learning here? Is a very valuable thing to do. Number 3, what do I really want? So what you really want is not just to let this person know that you're angry. What you really want is not to just scream at this person and prove that you're the most knowledgeable one in the room or something to that effect. So here's what I want to offer. I wrote this down so I would say it correctly, or so I would say it in the spirit it was intended. What makes you feel powerful is not always what serves your purposes best. I'm going to say that again, looking at the camera. What makes you feel powerful is not always what serves your purposes best. So this is just the thing that sometimes walking into a confrontation and having the most statistics memorized and knowing the most about a topic can make you feel powerful. It can make you feel like you have the upper hand. But that's not what helps that person grow. That's not what helps your scene partner learn. That's not what helps you establish a human connection, which is what we know will ultimately lead to the results that you're looking for. There is a gentler process that is harder to do, but more effective. And silence serves those purposes best. Moments of silence, planned silence, a pregnant pause, as we say in improv. So don't confuse what makes you feel powerful with what helps a situation, right? Because what helps a situation is for someone to know that you honor them, that it is safe for them to do the vulnerable work of learning. And silence is what serves those purposes best. So I hope that this has been a helpful use of your time. Do not be afraid to breathe. Do not be afraid to take the time that you need to recenter with who you really are. And do not feel afraid in confrontation or in those opportunities when you are inviting someone on a more loving journey, when you are inviting someone or suggesting, introducing information that can help the love in their heart be more consistently manifested in their beliefs and behavior. That's important work. That's important work. And it is best served in the context of real relationship, real human connection. And we get there through that gentle work of building together. And silence is kind of the mortar that holds those bricks together. Okay, thank you so much for watching and for sharing your time with me this morning. I'll have the replay posted on my blog. And I just want to send so much love and positivity. I feel like there's just a lot of need for those things right now. So continue doing the good work that you're doing to serve the people around you. That's what it's about. That's what improv is about. It's about serving the people around you. And that's also what leadership and activism and parenting, the things that are on a lot of our minds right now, it's about serving. Okay, and that's what improv is too. Silence will help you do that. Silence will help you be a good steward of this opportunity. Thank you guys so much love and positivity to all of you. And I'll be scanning through the comments here on LinkedIn and on Facebook throughout the day. So I'd love to hear your thoughts and your feedback, and we'll keep the conversation going. All right, bye everybody.